Hi there, Penny Eggers from Echo Healthcare. In this series, I'm going to show you how to set up your Reality 360 CPR bands and how to find them in your analytics on your iSimulate and how to use them in your debriefing. Your CPR band comes packaged in this carrying case. Let's take a look and see what's inside. Inside the carrying case, you're going to have two CPR bands that the participants can put on their wrist and wear. The modules fit inside the CPR bands. It comes with two internal mounts, two plastic internal mounts, which you insert the modules inside the plastic mounts. And this is in case you have a task trainer that you want to get feedback, CPR feedback on. You can permanently install these mounts and then pop your module in and out there to get your feedback. It comes with a puck that you can place the module inside the puck, and then you place this on the mannequin, and you can put your hands on top of that and do your CPR. Comes with two charging cables, and it comes with the two modules itself. Now the module here's where you charge it up. It's got a little USB-C on the back. And on the front is how you turn it on. There's this little tab. You're just going to push and hold that tab. You can hear now it's acting as a metronome. You continue to hold that tab and it lights up. And that means you are now ready to connect. So option one is you can put it into the puck, place the puck on this patient or this mannequin, and then you can do CPR. Or you can place it in the internal holder that is permanently installed into one of your task trainers, or you can put it inside the watch band, and that's what comes inside your CPR band package. In this section, we're going to show you how to scan for your bands. So I have the monitor on the screen right now. This is the participant monitor, the one that's in the iSimulate. You're going to make sure that your module is turned on, and you'll know that you'll have three flashing blue lights on your module. You're going to launch your Reality app. I'm going to put this in staging. And all I'm going to do is going to take my fingers and touch the screen and swipe right to left. And that should bring up your scanning for CPR bands. I want to go up to where it says scan for CPR band. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to touch it and click on it. It's going to show that I have a CPR band that is disconnected. I'm going to connect all. And now it's going to show that my band is connected. And here's where it tells you where you're going to have your battery levels. And right now it's saying that I have a low battery level on my module at 6%, so I'll probably need to plug that in very soon. Now if I want to highlight that by touching it, and you're going to see that it is now highlighted in gray, and it comes up with this next set of screens where you can disconnect, you're ready to go, you can type in a new name for the band for whoever the participant's wearing it, but just kind of a heads up, you have to put the letter CPR in that name, so you can name it CPR Band 1, Participant 1, or however you want to label that. And I'm ready to go. So we're just about ready to start our scenario using our CPR bands, but just to recap, to make sure your CPR bands are on and ready to go, I'm going to make sure that I've turned my CPR band on. We can tell that. You can see them. I have the module here. You have the three blinking lights ready to go. In order to turn it on, again, you just hold and depress this tab. The first mode that it comes up in is going to be a metronome. The second mode, if you continue to hold this, is going to be ready to Bluetooth and connect. So we're ready to connect. I'm going to go to my participants monitor. I'm going to touch the screen on the right-hand side and swipe to the left. This is going to bring up my CPR band page. I'm going to scan for bands by just tapping on Scan for Bands. I see that the band shows up in my dialog box. I'm going to just tap on that. It highlights it in gray. I'm going to connect. Now it's going to put it down into the connected CPR bands. It also will show you your battery life. Now I'm ready to go. I'm connected. And you can see that the module is now does not have the blue light. Doesn't mean that it turned off. It just means that it's now ready to go. I want to go to my facilitator pad and open my Reality app. It's going to bring me to this screen. I'm going to tap on the blue button Control. It's going to bring me up to Tap to Connect right here. So I'm going to tap and connect. I'm going to make sure that I am connected to the right monitors and the right iPads. So if yours is color-coded pink, you want to make sure that your monitor, your iPad, and your router all are pink, because if you mix and match them, it can cause a version mismatch and cause you to lose your scenario in the middle of running the scenario. But I only have one, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to click on that, highlight it, and connect. It's now going to bring me to this page, and this is kind of an important tips and trick in order to go back in your history and pull up the right debriefing tool and the right scenario. It's really a good idea to put the student's name or the participant's name or the participant's group, or however you're going to identify who you're doing the scenario with, up on the top here where it says name. If they have a student number or an employee number, you can put that there. You can also put an email address in there. That way at the end you'll get a nice report that you can email them the report for their files, or you can email it to yourself to put into a file for accreditation purposes, whatever. I'm going to pick what monitor I want to use. I'm going to choose the LifePak 15. You can use whatever monitor that you like, whatever you're comfortable with. And I want to go ahead and highlight that right in the CPR area. You see there the CPR band is connected. Once I hit start, you're going to notice that it highlights it in red. And now our CPR button has changed colors. It's now red. So before, when you're doing your scenario and you want, and the participants are performing CPR without the bands, you can click on this button and it will give you a waveform, a CPR waveform that you can choose from. You can choose poor CPR, you can choose good CPR, but once again, you're making those choices. It's really not truly what the participants are doing. With the CPR band, you do not have to push that button, because once they engage CPR, the bands will now take over, and the only thing you'll see on the monitor is their CPR. It will give you the feedback whether they're doing good chest compressions or not, whether the rate is good or not. You no longer have to push that button for that. Now I'm going to demonstrate that. I'm going to do CPR, and I'm going to do it on my leg, so it's going to come back poor CPR because there's only so much I can compress on it. And you're going to see the analytics at the end for your debriefing. So let's do the scenario. Let's do a real quick scenario. So I'm going to have the participants turn on their monitor. And right now they have a blood pressure, they have a pulse. I didn't give them respirations, so let me give them respirations. They have respirations, they have capnography, and let's say that I want to make them go into cardiac arrest. I'm going to do this quickly, so all I'm going to do is push the PEA button, and it's going to dump all the vital signs, and I'm going to put them into a PEA rhythm. The participants assess their patient. They realize there's a serious, significant change. The patient goes unresponsive, and now they're going to begin CPR. And watch the monitor as I begin CPR. I'm doing CPR on my leg. You're going to see that the monitor changes to a CPR mode. I'm not doing very good CPR because you can see that I'm not getting good chest compressions, but I'm compressing my leg. But it does give me a rate. So I've now begun CPR, and let's stop CPR. And let's say that I want to flag that for they did poor performance. So I'm going to hit my flag button, which is right down in this location here. I'm going to flag it for poor performance because I don't think I did very good CPR. And now I reassess my patient. I decided I need to go back to doing CPR. So now I'm going to do CPR. Now let's change the rhythm to, let's say, V-fib. I'm going to change the rhythm to V-fib. I'm stopping my chest compressions. I realize that I am in the patient's in V-fib, and now the student is going to charge up the monitor and push the shock button, and then go back to CPR. And let's say I want to flag them for doing a good job of recognizing that they recognize that the patient was in V-fib and that they had to shock the patient. All right, so we want to end this scenario. We want to see how I did. I can tell you I didn't do very well because I'm trying to do the monitor and do CPR on my leg, but let me show you how the analytics work. So I'm going to hit stop, which is right down here. I'm going to hit stop, and it's going to come up with the screen saying, are you sure? So I'm going to say yes. Now it's going to bring you to this real quick snapshot of what happened during the scenario. And this is a really good tool, especially if you have the iSimulate Pro, which you're doing video playback. Because if you're running a 10, 15, 20-minute scenario, you really don't want to have to watch the whole video or try to find a place where you thought was important. That's why that flag button came really important. You can see that I flagged a couple areas here. So if you download that video clip, all you have to do is scroll through to that flag, or right before the flag, and you can now watch what you thought was either poor performance at this point, because remember I did poor performance, or the second one where I did something really well. And I want to show that to the participants as well, so I can scroll to that area. That's a real quick, easy debriefing tool. We can do a little bit more, and I'll show you that in a minute. But on the top here, you can see that the blue, it actually correlates to the check boxes. So in our onboarding, we talked about the check boxes of how you can do, let's say they check for lung sounds, or they did a patient assessment, or they put pads on the patient. If I check those check boxes, it's going to appear up in this blue. I didn't do any check boxes in this scenario, so I'm showing 0 here. We talked about this graph. The blue is what the participants did in the scenario, and the yellow and white is the timeline. Now if I want to scroll down underneath that, it gives you kind of a list of what happened during the scenario. So the first one is the scene started, and that's where we started. The second one is I sent them into PEA. The third one down is a flag. That's where I flagged the student for doing poor performance, and then I can reiterate that I didn't think they were doing chest compressions appropriately. Then at 3:14, the patient went into a V-fib, so they shocked him, and then I gave them a flag there saying, oh, that was really good that you recognized that the patient was in V-fib. That's just a real quick overview of that. If you go to TMS, you notice at the top, that's where, at the top of the page, where you can see what the student's name is, or the group name. That's why I thought it was important in the beginning to put some identifier in there so you know which scenario you're debriefing. So if you don't put anything in, it's just going to say anonymous on there. So this is just a broad overview. Once again, the student's name, their email address, how many scenarios on record. So if you have, this also can keep track that this student, anonymous, did 24. Their email address, when the scenario started, when it finished, how long the scenario was, did they have their CPR band on, and what monitor was used, and then it just gives an identifier here. It's a random identifier. This again correlates to those checklists. I didn't give them any checklists, so there's nothing there to see. At this point, you can rename this and then send it to a PDF. So let's check out the PDF. Here is, once again, a more detailed debriefing tool. You have the student's name. Once again, highlighted in the blue is those corresponds with those checklists. You have when the scenario started, ended, the duration. This graph shows you a depiction of, it gives you a legend of what each of the colors mean. So this is the heart rate, this is your O2 sats, et cetera, and the orange here, or the brown, that's going to be when and CPR was stopped and started, and any critical interventions, such here it shows you that gave a shock at this particular point in time. Scrolling down, it gives me my CPR feedback, and my overall score was 12%. You can see that my pauses were pretty good. I did everything under the 10-second mark, but my CPR was too shallow, and then at some point I got too deep. And then my rate variable, I was way too slow for a good portion of the time. And that this also is depicted in this graph. Anything highlighted in blue is positive feedback. So my compression depth, you can see that I was really sporadic with my depth. But once again, I was doing it on my leg. The rate, I was about 9.4% in target with my rate. So let's go back to this page. Let's go up to the, once again, this is the quick overview. Let's highlight over CPR. And then this will give you another quick snapshot of just my CPR. When I started CPR, when it was finished, the CPR duration, number of compressions, our mean compression depth in centimeters. And this tool here just tells me, and this correlates with ACLS, of my on the chest versus off the chest. What is my percentage? And we know we want to keep it at least in the 80% range. And once again, this gives us that graph that we showed on the PDF of, in the blue highlight is where my depth was really good. The gray either shows my depth too deep or not deep enough, and then my rate. And that's how you to connect your CPR bands and how to use it in your debriefing tool.